Okay, so welcome everyone, and thank you for joining the Science Abroad Industry webinar on Zoom and Facebook Live simultaneously. This is my second webinar for Science Abroad, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Yona Zimmerman. I joined Science Abroad 5 months ago to build up and expand the industry track of the organization. We identify and build relationships between Israeli scientists, PhDs and postdocs who are living abroad, and we connect them to the industry in Israel. So if you're a scientist looking for any kind of collaboration, or if you want to start a new venture or find a job in Israel, or if you're on the other side of the table and you're looking to identify and connect with Israeli scientific data, then that's what we're here for. And you can reach me by email at yona@scienceabroad.org.il. Couple of administrative notes. These webinars are just one of the many activities run by Science Abroad. And we do this with the generous support of the Center for Integration in Science and the Business Innovation Department at the Ministry of Aliyah and Integration. I invite you to go to our website to learn more about our other activities, scienceabroad.org.il, and click on sign up. This webinar is recorded and will be available on Facebook and our website. So, as part of my work, I'm going to be running weekly webinars talking to leaders and innovators who are at the pinnacle of the ecosystem in Israel. During our chats, we'll hear their stories, learn about exciting innovations being developed, get their insight into challenges and opportunities in Israel, understand what relevant collaborations they might be looking for, and of course, answer your questions. So without further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce Dr. Orna Darizen. Hi, Orna.
Hi.
Orna is
Good morning,
CEO and
everyone.
chairperson of Nextstar Chem Pharma Solutions, a biotechnology company with a platform for different drug candidates in CNS, neurodegenerative diseases, and brain cancers. And the company is also Israel's leading CDMO. I believe you've formulated over 120 innovative drugs, but in a minute you'll tell us more about that. Orna is also chairperson of the board at Next Stage Therapeutics, a publicly traded drug development company focused on cannabinoid-based products. She holds a PhD in biochemistry from the Weizmann Institute and her postdoctoral from UCLA. Orna, thank you for your time and thank you for being here. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you spend most of your time?
Wow. Okay, thank you very much for this very generous introduction. As you said, most of my time is spent between my job as the owner and CEO of Nextstar Chem Pharma Solutions and my family. And I have, you can learn from my gray hair that I have already 5 grandchildren, and they are the most important part of my life.
Great.
So that's in general where I am. I do some volunteer work for some other issues such as Safe Kids and other organizations, and this is part of my, I have to work with my soul and give some of my time to the society. That's how I feel that I should share my time.
Very nice.
So
why don't we start with, first of all, because most of our audience are scientists, PhD, people who are currently doing their postdocs in the States. Why don't you walk us through a little bit about your transition from academia to industry and how you think things have changed over the past few years?
Okay, so, I've made this change quite a few years ago. I guess because of main 2 reasons. One, as simple as being a mother for 3 little children, I felt that rather than writing many grants, I would rather do something that helps the society, which is very important. During my postdoc already, I was involved in a patent, which is ever since a diagnostic tool used for CML and CLL patients. So I had some tendency towards realized science, not only theoretical science. So that was my first reason to move to industry. The other reason, and as odd it may look to other people, when I started my days at the Weizmann Institute at the beginning of my PhD, I was asked to repeat a work of a PhD student, which was non-reproducible. And I don't know the reasons, and I don't want to speculate, but it was non-reproducible. And then I learned that in the academia, you can do many things that either you have 2 dots or you've done things once, or you don't really repeat it, and it's still considered and you can publish. And this is maybe against my the way I see life. And therefore, it happened that I had some attraction to quality assurance, to make sure that the science is well done, well documented, and accurate. And this led me to the industry, where I learned, I must say, most of the things that I do today, I've learned in the industry, not during my academic life. The academic life, for me, as I see them now, are a very good and important basis. But following that, you have to really understand what it means to develop a drug product, what it means to make it being efficacious and consistent, and what it means to measure. If you just take the issue of measurements, we all measure in the lab. There are over 10,000 people who work in laboratories, in medical laboratories and chemical laboratories, who never studied how to really measure. The art of metrology is not studied during the our university life. And it is an art. It is a scientific issue, how to measure correctly what you measure. And these things are studied in the industry, not in the academic life. And somehow I was more attracted towards realistic projects that would result with a good product. And that's
interesting. But now, so how did you get from quality assurance to what you do today, which is CNS and blood-brain barrier? That's quite a journey in itself.
It is. It definitely. So, first of all, during my younger life, I should say, I have decided that I should change my job every 5-6 years, that I don't get stuck anywhere. And you know, life leads you. So I started my first, after following the postdoc, I started in Interpharm Laboratories as regulatory affairs, and very soon they gave me the authority to manage the quality control laboratory, where, as I said, I've done things out of my instincts more than out of knowledge, but I learned during the years. Following that, I established a startup, And unfortunately, there were problems with the scientific data, so I left. And then I managed
This is all in Israel?
in Israel.
In Israel, okay.
No, the postdoc was at UCLA, but then, yes.
But then you came back to Israel, okay.
And then I managed the National Public Health Laboratories of the Ministry of Health. And following that, I went to manage the National Accreditation Authority. And then when I left the Accreditation Authority, they called me from actually what was Nextstar then. I did not establish it. It was a few months after it was established, and they said, we need you as a good manager, come be the chair of the board. And since then, I've become the CEO, and the rest is history. So this is quite a journey by itself. I was not afraid of changing. Not only that, I was not afraid. I think that it is good to change what you do. And I think now I can say I have looked at the industry and the environment of the scientific environment from almost every angle. As a regulator, as a hand of many regulators, as a regulated body, part of the industry, part of the ministry. So I really very.
So you have a tremendous amount of expertise in anything regulatory related to manufacturing and development of drugs. And is it drugs or drug delivery platforms? I mean, what?
No.
Where does the expertise lie?
Okay. The expertise is the chemical development of drug products and medical devices that are made of chemistry, not hardware or software.
Interesting. Okay.
That's the expertise. And this combines actually regulatory aspects, quality aspects, chemistry aspects, but I have a whole group with all the different expertise, such as analytical people, organic chemists, manufacturing people, so regulatory, etc. That is the expertise. Now, being a scientist and a curious person, and also because services do not lead you too far. So we've decided, I was always curious about how can we deliver drugs to the brain. Our brain is highly protected with the blood-brain barrier and other protection mechanisms. And for many, many years, the industry was afraid of looking at it. This is a challenge that is really, until today, not solved. And just in the last 3-4 years, 5 years, all of a sudden, a few companies have decided to try and tackle it. And so we have allocated a delivery system that was developed in a group by a group in the Technion. And we've licensed it. And we develop it ever since for the last 4.5 years. And this is going further as a drug delivery system that can be loaded with different drugs and deliver them specifically to the brain. So that is something that we are developing for ourselves. And in addition to that, as an entrepreneur, I've decided to establish a daughter company for which we develop drug products based on either cannabinoids or psychedelic molecules. These are also focused on brain. So
the connection between the two is brain. Is the cannabinoid product supposed to go through the drug delivery platform, or it's two separate
Not
things? It just happens to be
necessarily.
brain related.
Okay, not necessarily through the platform. Some don't. No, I should say this. Everyone who smokes cannabis or have tried mushrooms know that it gets to the brain. So you don't really need a delivery system.
Ah, understood.
However, the delivery system might change the kinetics, the bioavailability in the brain, and also protect the body, the other organs, from these molecules. So there may be, well, for example, if we look at CBD is considered a safe molecule, and the approved, FDA-approved drug for some groups of epileptic children contains CBD. Mm-hmm. However, when you look at the side effects, you learn that there are many side effects to CBD, mainly because cannabinoids bind all over the body, not only in the brain. So it interferes with the homeostasis that in our body. Therefore, there may be some logic to load it onto the specific drug delivery system and not just give it as such. So,
okay.
So it may use it, but not necessarily.
Right. Okay. So why don't you walk us through a little bit more about Nexstar and what you guys are developing over there?
Okay, so if I may share a short presentation, and I will not go through everything.
Yeah, perfect. We can see that.
All right.
Looks good.
So, okay, why doesn't it move? Do you have an idea? Oh, okay. So I will not go. We said already that Nexstar, now it's 15 years old. We've done over 4,000 projects for about 400 clients, among them the large companies such as Teva, Allergan, Neuroderm, Polypid, etc. And I will go directly to the drug delivery system. The idea is that we produce liposomes, and now everyone is aware of liposomes because of the immunization we got against COVID-19, which was RNA loaded on liposomes. However, our liposomes are also equipped with a small peptide linked in a proprietary way to the phospholipids of the outer layer of the liposomes. And this small peptide originates from a very important protein, APP, in the brain. It is a very highly preserved sequence of the APP. And this leads the liposomes loaded with the drug to the brain. And if you can see here, you can see brains, of course, and liposomes were loaded with Texas red. And so you can see the A, this is untreated control. The B is targeted liposomes, and the brain contains a lot of Texas red, where the C are the same liposomes with Texas red, however, without this small protein, which we call targeter. So it doesn't get to the brain as much as those that are equipped with this targeter. And this is yet another picture where both the liposomes and the payload were labeled with the fluorescent molecules. And as you can see, non-targeted liposomes do not penetrate, where targeted liposomes penetrate, and the payload is being downloaded within the brain. technology was tried as a proof of concept on two mice model. One is hemi-Parkinsonian mice. As you probably are aware, dopamine is what is missing in the brain of Parkinsonian people. However, and dopamine is an approved drug, but not for Parkinson's, because if you treated a Parkinsonian patient with the dopamine, it would not penetrate the brain. However, in this experiment, the dopamine was loaded on the liposomes, and these are hemi-Parkinsonian mice, so one hemisphere is Parkinsonian and one is a control. And you can see.
Sorry, I'm going to mute myself. That's my dog.
So, and you can see that after 5 minutes already, but more so 30, 60, and even 180. So the mice start going to the left side. So it did get to the striatum of the mice, and they stopped being Parkinsonian. And you can see it even after 180 minutes. Same goes for another model that we used, which is glioblastoma. And I will, no, sorry, I thought I have this picture and I don't. So I will just tell you that the mice with glioblastoma injected with human glioblastoma were treated with TMZ, which is, and doxorubicin. These are two different experiments. Both are cytotoxic drugs. And when they were treated with TMZ, the tumor shrank a bit. However, when they were treated with TMZ loaded on the liposomes, the tumor almost disappears. Same goes for doxorubicin loaded liposomes, and their lifespan was about twice as those treated with the naked molecule. So that is, in a nutshell, we have loaded many different molecules on these liposomes, both hydrophobic and hydrophilic. You can see it in TEM, and there are many possibilities of many different indications that we may use it for. And I don't know if you're aware, but one of every 6 persons in the world has either a brain or CNS disease. So the market is quite huge. And what we should hope for is that all the 6 different companies that are working on it, or maybe 6 more, that we should all be successful because there are enough diseases for all. That's my message. So I think I should stop here with the presentation, and we'll answer any question.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to pretend to understand it all. But can you tell me a little bit about who developed and how the science was developed?
Yes. So the idea of liposome exists, and there are about, except for the immunization anti-COVID-19, there are at least 4 or 5 drugs that are FDA approved with liposome. One of them, and this was developed in collaboration with the same laboratory, the first one that was approved contained a cytotoxic drug, doxorubicin, within the liposomes. The reason being that doxorubicin tends to bind to the heart muscle cells, and this is harmful. So in order to protect the heart, the doxorubicin was encapsulated within the liposomes And we've shown also in some of our results with another psychedelic drug that the heart binds 6 times less the molecules when the molecule is encapsulated within the liposomes. Okay, so that is for the liposomes. As for getting to the brain, the main challenge is being the transfer through the blood-brain barrier. It is quite now understood, and just recently I attended a meeting discussing the blood-brain barrier, that it is proteins that may pass through the blood-brain barrier. And all the groups that are dealing with it are either working with antibodies or half an antibody, or peptides. There are only one more that is working with peptide like we do. So the idea was, where can we go find a peptide that most likely will go through the blood-brain barrier? And it was quite natural to look at a brain protein that contains a very preserved, highly preserved sequence that has to bind to the transferrin receptor. So that was the thinking. And in those days, there were a few papers that were talking about this sequence. And there came the combination of this peptide with liposomes. And that was developed by Dr. Nahum Alon from the Technion, together with in the lab of Chezi Barnolds, who was first to develop the doxil, which is the doxorubicin containing liposomes. And being intrigued with this question of how do we go through and how can we reach the brain, I located it and decided that I want to do it. So,
wow, that's amazing. So what that's, I mean, that's really amazing. Also, just the changes that you went from, you know, science and academia to all of the licensing and all the regulations, and then you sort of, you know, you're zigzagging between science and innovation and regulation and back to science again. It's pretty incredible. So for people who are just sort of starting off, this is the beginning of their journey. What words of advice would you have, especially given the fact that they're looking to, you know, collaborate with the industry in Israel?
So I should say this: the industry in Israel, the entrepreneurship in Israel is quite amazing. There are many different ideas, and I think that's the beauty of this industry here. Now, when I talk to the young people, and I quite often do that, I always say, you don't look for a job, you look for a boss. It really doesn't matter whether you're going to work on the brain or eye problems, it doesn't really matter. You need to work with good people who can teach you, who can be a leading figure, and who are very enthusiastic and good, who are willing to, I don't know, how do you say lefargen in English, but people who are supportive, people who
to give credit and to collaborate, yeah.
And would be willing to share, okay? So that's the way I look at it. As you can see from my background, I've done many different things. And I was never afraid of trying something new. And I didn't even talk about what I've done during my postdoc and my PhD. So And each time it was a different subject, but it was important that I got the opportunity and I got the support to grow up. That's the main thing in my mind. Now, there are many different opportunities. There are many startups. Industry is definitely different than academia, but it doesn't really matter whether you look for an academic position or for an industry position. You need to work with good people. That's the main thing. And so when you look at don't look only at the subject, whether it interests you, or try to ask the people around, those who work in the same group, those who work nearby in the next laboratory, about the personality of the person. That's most important in my mind, more than the subject.
I think that's so true, and I think that that's cross-industry. I mean, I don't think that's specific to, the tech industry or the biotech industry. I think that's true in terms of your career, and always have a mentor. Always have someone who's there, who's got your back, but will also, tell you the truth when you need to hear it. I think that that's very important for people who are just starting off, someone who's also going to tell you the truth and not just tell you, you're going to be okay, you're going to be okay. Because I don't think it's an easy journey. So okay, so let's just Israel in the next.
I didn't hear you. You were.
I was just asking from your perspective, Israel over the next 2 to 5 years, which segments do you see the largest growth?
Okay, so that is another, if we're talking about life sciences, first of all, I should say, there is a crisis of good chemists. So if you're a good chemist, you will always find a good job here in Israel, because there aren't too many.
Chemists. Okay.
Yeah. If you look at the life sciences, where the money lies, so today, the money lies in 2, 3, depends how you want to count them, areas. First of all, cell therapy and biologicals. This is if you look at pharmaceuticals, this is where you would still have some investments. The other two, and I'm saying it with great sorrow, are what they call, which is a bad name, digital health, because it doesn't make you healthy at all. But it is much easier because you just need a computer and 2 people sit down, no laboratory, no big money, and within 2 years you exit if you are good. So digital health is where there's a lot of investment now, and also IT or AI, I should say, the data management, data analysis, etc. These are unfortunately, investors do not have the patience and the money to invest in pharmaceutical development. It is very difficult to raise money for pharma. So if you ask me what is the situation in the next 2 to 5 years, when I started at Nextstart, this is 2009, there were 17 funds that would fund pharmaceuticals and medical devices. In 2010, there were only 3 left. and the trend was towards medical devices. Nowadays, the trend is digital health.
Is that globally or specifically in Israel?
It is globally. You can look that everyone goes with one clock, one watch here and one watch there and one ring here, and it measures everything. Now I ask, but how do you treat it? So first of all, measurement is not a measurement, and then there's no one invests in treatments. But that's a sad situation, but that's the global situation nowadays. Today, there are 3 funds that would fund pharma in Israel. One is Orbimed, and they've created an accelerator, FutureX. There are other accelerated, and another industry, part of industry that now gets some attention is the food tech. Food tech is now at the rise. People are trying to develop the steaks or whatever, beyond meat and these products. So food tech is now also getting attention and investment. And that's in between the pharma and the food industry, because it's a more sophisticated industry than the food in general.
Wow, interesting. So if are you looking currently to hire? Are you currently looking to, are you open to people sending in their CVs? If so, what kind of scientific backgrounds are you looking for?
Well, currently I'm not sure that I have too many. I just hired 2 lately, so it's not so simple. I'm looking for a QA manager, but that's not scientists abroad. But I am still open, and maybe for people who are aware of formulations and brain research. That could be, and I'm open for collaborations.
Okay, wonderful. So I think, is there anything else you'd like us to know?
I think that's enough. If people have questions, I'm open for questions.
Okay, let me just check what's going on the Facebook. If anyone has questions, now is your time. Okay, no, I don't see we have any questions. So, Orna, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us. As I said, this is going to be online on our website and our LinkedIn. And if anyone wants to be in touch with Orna, feel free to contact me, or you'll find Orna also on LinkedIn and can reach her directly. Thank you, Orna. It's lovely to chat with you as always. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, and I wish everyone who attended good luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.